Have you upgraded to Windows 7 yet? If not, is it because you're afraid of letting go of Windows XP? Well, fear no longer. You can actually run Windows XP inside of Windows 7 with no additional cost to you. It's a feature called Windows XP mode, and it's included in every version of Windows 7 except for the Home Edition. The only other requirement is that your processor supports hardware virtualization. And that sounds really complicated, but in this tutorial I'll show you how to test to see if your processor supports it. The things that I'll be covering in this Windows XP mode tutorial are the download process, the installation process, and displaying some of the integration features that are included. Just a quick word on virtual machines. The Windows XP version that you'll be installing is actually running on a virtual machine. All it is simply a computer running inside of another computer. The Windows XP will actually think that it's running on a physical machine when in reality it will be running on top of Windows 7. This will become more obvious as we go through this tutorial and you see how it works.
Alright, so the first thing you want to do is open your web browser and search for Windows XP mode in Google and pick the first result. And you want to run a tool that'll check your computer to make sure that it's actually compatible with Windows XP mode because it requires that your processor have hardware virtualization enabled. So you run the tool. It is not enabled on my machine. So I will restart, go into the BIOS of my machine, and ensure that it is actually enabled. Okay, so now that you've enabled hardware virtualization on your processor in your BIOS, you want to actually completely power down your computer, wait a couple seconds and turn it back on, and then run the tool again. And sure enough, it says it's configured with hardware virtualization. Okay, wonderful. To begin the download process, open Internet Explorer because it likely won't work unless you have that open, and download these two files. You may be prompted to install a validation utility. Go ahead and do that and save these files to your desktop. And as you can see, I have them downloaded here. One of them is 9 megabytes and the other one is around 500 or so. So it'll take a few minutes. At this point, you'll want to run the Windows XP mode installer, then the Microsoft Virtual PC installer, and restart your computer. Okay, so now that you've got your computer restarted, you can go ahead and start up Windows XP mode, which is under Windows Virtual PC under your Programs folder. Here it is. And accept the license terms. You want to set a password for Windows Security. And go ahead and leave it checked to remember it so you don't have to log in when you start the virtual machine. Click Next. And once again, for security purposes, enable automatic updates. And you are all done. Okay, so as you can see, Windows XP mode is starting up. And this is the native boot mode of Windows XP mode. It actually looks like one computer on top of your computer. And if you maximize this window, it'll maximize to the full screen size of your computer. It looks like you're running Windows XP directly on top of Windows 7. If somebody were to walk up to your computer, they'd know no different. So what we'll do is install an application so I can demonstrate the integration features. And I'm going to install Firefox just as a demo. Okay, so I've got the Firefox installer installed on the desktop. If you notice, there's a little blue bar if you move your mouse cursor to the top of the screen if you have it maximized. If you restore it down, it'll restore Windows XP mode into its own box, just like any other program on your computer. And so just to prove that I'm actually installing this in Windows XP, you can see it right on top of Windows 7 here. And if you drag this window, it'll actually resize to fit it. Now just to show you, before this actually finishes installing for the integration features, you'll notice that there is not a folder in this under Windows Virtual PC in the Start menu. Okay, so now that we've installed Firefox, you'll notice if you click Start and All Programs in Windows Virtual PC, that there are links to Firefox. And that's due to the fact that when it installed it, it put shortcuts in the All Users folder in the Windows XP. If it does not put it in a shortcut, you'll need to manually make one. Sometimes it'll put it right directly in the user, which in this case is XPM user. That's the default. And you can see my Firefox right there on the desktop, so we'll go ahead and click it, make sure that it works. Sure enough, it does. And you can browse the internet with it. So we'll close out of that and show you the integration features. Just close down this virtual machine box and it will actually hibernate it. So now you can open up Firefox just like any other program in Windows 7. And you notice there's no Mozilla Firefox here, there's no Mozilla Firefox here. I do not have it installed in Windows 7. I have it installed in the Windows XP mode. So I'll go ahead and click Mozilla Firefox, and you can actually drag this directly out to the desktop as a shortcut just like any other program. So I'll go ahead and double click on it. And you may get an error, just go ahead and click continue. And voila, Firefox right in Windows 7. And actually, if you notice, it's got the Windows XP look and feel to it because it's actually running on Windows XP. And there you go. Windows XP applications directly in Windows 7.
Now that you've installed Windows XP mode in Windows 7, you can harness the power of Windows XP whenever you like. Virtualization is the industry standard. Bring it to your desktop. Enjoy.